Listening to some of the Idaho victims' parents talk is heartbreaking. It really is. I'm not going to play any of the audio here. I was talking about it a bit in my last Idaho video about Kaylee's parents and how I think some of the mainstream media organisations are taking advantage of how vulnerable they are at the moment. It's the same with Xana's mother. It's just heartbreaking listening to them talk. They're all in shock, obviously. It is a nightmare. It's a living horror movie. It's only been 3 weeks. They talk about this case going cold, which is in part being driven, I feel, by the media and some of the silly questions they are asking the parents. Like, the talk of this case going cold or being cold is unfounded and not accurate at all. It hasn't even warmed up yet. You need to get a bit of heat into you before you can go cold. 3 weeks is nothing for a case like this. I hope in the past few days the family liaison officers have had some good, honest communication with all the victims' families. They need to clearly set expectations with them. I get that they can't tell them details right now that they will be able to tell them in the future, but be clear with them about how long some of these tests will take. Lots of cross-contamination, and we can easily be talking about another month before some of the key forensics results come back. Like, that's still only 7 weeks, and it also includes Christmas and New Year's, where you're going to have people who work in the labs. That's their day-to-day job. They're all normal humans. They need days off too, and they're going to have some of that condensed into the end of December. People want overnight results for some of these tests, and that's just not possible. Some media organisations know this. They know better, and they're being a bit cruel to the family, I feel, by looking for sound bites and talking about this case going cold to them. It's so early. There needs to be proper communication and expectations set with these poor parents, and the mainstream media needs to get a grip and leave these families alone. But what kind of evidence will be back by now? Forensics, like I said, is definitely going to take a bit longer yet. But there is other key pieces of evidence that will be back by now or coming back in the next few days. I'm talking about phone records and any possible connection to the crime scene or the victims in any way. All their phone records and phone data is going to be pulled. The digital evidence here is going to be huge. Forensics and digital evidence, like them two alone, will probably solve this case, but it's going to take time. But I do want to talk about one of the pieces of digital evidence that people may have overlooked a little bit: the Wi-Fi router in the house. I know a little bit about this stuff, and this was on my mind early on in this case for a lot of reasons. It could be massive. Just a quick little tangent, sidebar, to explain some of this. Commercial routers in supermarkets, malls, and their free Wi-Fi. How much do you guys know about that and some of the shady stuff that goes on there? The 3 biggest shopping centres closest to me all have this, and they learned from the States, so you guys are definitely surrounded by this, and a lot of this stuff originated from the States. They love malls, supermarkets, love when you connect to their free Wi-Fi because it gives them such incredible useful data, and people in digital marketing use this to target you. Once you connect, they get a lot of data on you. They track your movements, see what parts of the shopping centre that you spend most of your time in, see what you Google when you're there, track your repeat visits, your overall consumer behaviour, and all that data is used to target you. Most people know this happens, and sometimes it's good. With some of these setups, what they'll do is they'll send you a personal voucher when you're in that store for a free coffee at a coffee shop that you never visited. Just ping notification through to your phone. Here you go grab a free coffee. If they think you might be checking something out online on Amazon, they might send you a 10% off voucher to make sure you buy it while you're there. All this stuff is big business and becoming even bigger. You're not getting free internet. You're giving them valuable data that they will use. One way or another, you're paying for that free internet. Most people are aware of that part, I think, with the free Wi-Fi around the place. But what you might not be aware of is, as long as you have your phone Wi-Fi on, just turned on, while you're doing your shop or while you're visiting that mall, they're tracking you. That device is being logged, and that device is being tracked all around the mall. The history of that device is logged, so they'll know if you're a repeat customer, if you're a returning customer or not. And it's sort of like phone towers, same kind of concept, but instead of phone towers, The shopping centres, the malls have dozens of routers spread all around the place, and your phone is pinging off that because your Wi-Fi signal is on, and by using that data they can track your movements. It's pretty much the same concept as phone towers and signal pinging. And if you want to use that example, the FBI cannot do what these malls are doing with the data. It's illegal, as in they can track devices from tower to tower. They can track thousands of devices and build out profiles and movements on those devices. They can get a search warrant for one, but they can't do a mass data collection. They can get a kind of mass data dump from one tower, but they can't then start there and use that data and get mass data dumps from all the other towers surrounding it. Robert Ives talked about this in the Delphi case years ago. After the Patriot Act, things kind of swung the other way. I link it here because I'll go down a rabbit hole that I won't get back out of for a while. But I think you get the gist of it. It's illegal for the FBI to process data like this because it's public towers. It's not illegal for shopping centres or malls to do things like this because it's a private building and it's a private internet. Cleo Smith, another example. If Cleo Smith went missing over in the States, the FBI would not have been able to use the data the way the Australians use the data because the setup is different. It's illegal. Australia didn't give a toss. They said, if it's illegal, we'll make it legal, we'll change the law. And they went further than that. They said, we're going to use secret spy technology if we have to. We don't care. But things are different in the States. There's a lot of legalities around some of this stuff. But that's the extreme side of commercial routers. They track the data of every phone that is in range and their Wi-Fi signal is on. That data is logged. And I've been trying to look into domestic routers to see if that's the same thing. The example being, if you were over at my house with your Wi-Fi turned on, does my router, does my internet provider track that data somewhere? Can they see your device's Wi-Fi signal even if you are not connected and never have connected to the Wi-Fi? It's been a bit of a nightmare to look into. I read some of the most boring policies you can imagine. They all do it. It's intentional. And every internet provider seems to be different. It's hard to tell, but the short answer I think is no. I don't think they do. Mainly because that's such a huge amount of data that the data has to be stored somewhere and that costs money. I know some of the setups that the commercial malls have cost a fortune, but a key feature of them is some of the stuff I talked about. But I'm not sure about domestic. It doesn't look like they do, but I can't say for sure. Like if you have a house or apartment in a city centre, that's an incredible amount of data to be tracking and storing for these internet providers, and all that costs money. What they do track though is anyone who connects to the Wi-Fi. And you all know if you connect to a Wi-Fi in the past and you go back to that house a few weeks later, a year later, 2 years, as long as they have the same setup and you have the same phone, that will automatically connect. You just need to connect once. And I think the data from that router in the Moscow house is back or about to come back. They need a bit of time to get it and they need some good data analysts to break it all down and put together a little report. But that's such valuable data. If the killer was someone who connected to that Wi-Fi before and they had their phone on them, it will connect during the time of the murders. Unless they put it on airplane mode, it's going to connect. Would they be conscious enough not to bring their phone? I'm not sure. If it was a rage, maybe not. But if it was calculated, maybe they would. And the fact that they brought a knife suggests there's obviously some level of planning and calculation. If this was some sort of jealous boyfriend who had stayed in the house before, I think this might have tripped him up. If there is nothing there, nothing unusual in the data that comes back, then to me it might be an indication that this is not someone very close to the victims who are under a magnifying glass at the moment. I still do think it's targeted in some way. Do they even have Wi-Fi at this house? I don't even know that. Does anyone know? I might be talking about something here that has no relevance, but I think the vast majority of houses like this will have Wi-Fi. All young people will lose their minds if they have no internet. But I'm interested if anyone from Idaho is watching, like what are the internet packages like for phones over there? There seems to be a bit of a slowdown from people in general who go to other people's homes or restaurants and immediately ask for the Wi-Fi password. I've noticed this myself. The reason for that is 4G, 5G, unlimited data, good coverage. You might not need to connect to a Wi-Fi as much as you would have a few years ago. But I do not know what that's like in Idaho, and I don't know what that's like for the college students in Idaho. Over here, it's pretty much €20 a month for all calls, all texts, all data for student mobile phones. And the coverage in cities, especially cities that have universities, is pretty good. I did have a quick look, and it seems to range from $30 to $80 over in the States, depending on the provider. And I don't know much about the providers. I don't know who's good, who's bad. I say this because I think someone staying over in the house on a regular basis might connect to the router, but someone who's there for a few hours, would they? In this day and age, I'm not so sure, because the internet on their phone might be really good, so there's no need. And like, all that depends on the coverage in the area and how good that is. If anyone watching this video has some sort of insight into that and could let me know, I'd really appreciate it. I'm just really curious about the Wi-Fi setup, about the phone signals in the area. How strong is the internet connection? Would someone that visited a house want to connect to the Wi-Fi, or would they more than likely be on a package that gives them all the data that they need, and the signal there is fantastic, so they wouldn't even need to do it? Let me know what you think, and if anyone can answer any of those questions or have any insight at all, could you please let me know. Good luck, God bless, I hope you all have a lovely day.